Bueno, y hablando de contenidos positivos, ¿quién mejor que Leonard Sax como nuestro invitado esta noche? Un verdadero experto en temas de familia y paternidad, con un tono positivo. Hoy con una versión ejecutiva de su estudio más reciente, Pandemic Parenting. Hello, Leonard. Welcome to Monterrey and to Núcleo Familiar. I hope things are going well in Philadelphia. Thanks so much for joining us. Are you there?
Buenas noches.
Buenas
noches.
Hello.
Gracias por invitarme.
Buenas noches.
It's good to listen to you, Leonard.
Desafortunadamente no puedo hablar español.
That's good enough. We're happy with that. That's good enough.
Welcome.
We're ready to listen to you. Disfruten. Gracias.
Gracias.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks again for inviting me. Just a word about my background. I earned my undergraduate degree in biology at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I earned my doctorate in psychology and my medical degree at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. I have been a medical doctor now for almost 32 years. I am a full-time family doctor here in Chester County, Pennsylvania, about an hour west of Philadelphia. Started visiting schools 20 years ago, and I've now visited over 460 schools, not only in the United States, but in many other countries, including in Mexico, in Ciudad Mexico, in San Luis Potosí, in Guadalajara, and most recently, not long ago, in Monterrey. Written 4 books, Why Gender Matters, Boys Adrift, Girls on the Edge, and The Collapse of Parenting, which is available in Spanish translation. And I prepared a handout for you this evening. You don't need the handout now, but I'm going to be rattling off a number of some data, some figures in just a moment. And you don't need to jot those down. They're all in your handout. And I'll show you this link again. I just want you to be aware that the handout is there so that you don't feel any need to jot down the numbers that I'm going to be sharing with you momentarily. So at the invitation of the hosts, I have prepared a short presentation for you, sharing some of what we have learned here in the United States in the 11 months since the pandemic really hit our area. I don't know whether this is relevant to your experience in Mexico. I hope it is. My host thought it might be. But I want you to be aware, I realize these are data from the United States, not data from Mexico. Maybe they're relevant, maybe they're not. But I think the lessons we've learned, I think will be useful to all parents anywhere. And you can judge for yourself whether you think that's accurate. So here in the United States, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, has been monitoring depression among adult Americans for many, many years. And it's a fairly large survey. About twice a year, they would survey more than 70,000 adults nationwide in a carefully selected sample to be representative of the entire country, East and West, North and South, urban and rural, affluent and low income, and so forth. Last April, they recognized that we're in a pandemic and that it would be appropriate to increase the frequency of that monitoring. So they stepped up the monitoring from twice a year to every 2 weeks, but still surveying a large number of Americans coast to coast, from 18 years of age to over 80 years of age. And they also reposted the data from April 2019 as a baseline. So that's almost a year before the pandemic began. In April of 2019, 6.5% of adults in the United States reported significant impairment due to symptoms of depression. So that's our baseline, 6.5%. The most recent cycle concluded 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, that number had more than quadrupled to 28.3% of adults in the United States reporting significant impairment due to symptoms of depression. But they also broke down the data by age. So again, looking at those most recent data, and these numbers are all in your handout, you look at the youngest cohort, adults 18 to 29 years of age, and you find that 43% reported symptoms of depressive disorder. But with each decade, with each older group, there's not a perfectly monotonic decrease, but a clear trend. The older you are, the less likely you are to be depressed. Again, all these numbers are in your handout, as well as the link to the CDC source if you would like to look at the original numbers for yourself. So the message seems to be clear that since the pandemic began, depression has risen among adults in the United States. And among adults, the younger you are, the greater the risk that you are experiencing depression. What about children? What about teenagers? The CDC study only looked at adults 18 years of age and older. They have made no attempt to survey children or younger teenagers. Again, the rate was very high among the youngest adults. In that youngest group, 18 to 29 years of age, 43% in the cycle that concluded 2 weeks ago, 43% reported significant impairment due to symptoms of depression. Is it even higher among younger kids? No, it is not. So Jean Twenge, if you've read any of my work, I'm always citing Jean Twenge. I've corresponded with her. I've known her for years. She is, in my judgment, the leading scholar in my country on issues of anxiety and depression among children and teenagers and how those rates are changing over time. That's really her specialty, which she has come to call cross-temporal analysis. How have rates of anxiety and depression changed among American children and teens over time? That is her area of expertise. She basically created that field, and she is the leading scholar in that field. And she partnered with a group headquartered at the University of Virginia, Charlottesville, to do a nationwide survey of more than 1,500 middle school and high school kids under 18 years of age. So these are kids in 8th grade, 10th grade, 12th grade here in the United States. Again, a demographically representative sample, east, west, north, south, urban, rural, affluent, low income. And in her survey, she found that only 20% of middle school and high school students nationwide reported symptoms of depression. That's not only much lower than the 43% in the CDC report, it's actually lower than a very similar survey 2 years earlier, at which time 28% of middle school and high school students reported significant symptoms of depression. What's going on? Well, first of all, Jean Twenge points out that there is a split, a bifurcation in her results. Some kids do report feeling worse since the pandemic began, but other kids report feeling better. What's going on? This, I think, is important. It's not random. As you know, I'm a family doctor. And I have discovered in recent months that I can tell within 2 minutes of a child or teenager coming into the office, within 2 minutes of my encounter of this kid, I can tell you where this kid's primary attachment lies. So attachment is a word that psychologists use in a very specific way. If a child's primary attachment is to their parent, what that means is that they care what their parents think more than they care what anybody else thinks. They look to their parents. They orient themselves to their parents. And for some kids, that's the case. But for many, many kids in the United States, it is not the case. For many kids in the United States, scholars find their primary attachment is to other kids their own age. And they may say they love their parents, but they're much more concerned about what other kids think than they are about what their parents think. They're much more interested in spending time with other kids their own age than in spending time with their parents. So those are measures of primary attachment. As I said a moment ago, I can now tell you within 2 minutes where a kid's primary attachment lies. Some kids come in and they're thriving. I mean, they're sick or they sprained their ankle. I mean, that's why they're there. But they're thriving. They're articulate. They're smiling. They're making good eye contact. They may be hurting from their sprained ankle, but they're doing fine. Other kids are sullen, withdrawn, resentful, angry. And within 2 minutes, this kid's here for a sprained ankle, but that's not what he's angry about. He's angry because the pandemic has messed up his life. His primary attachment is to his same age peers. His favorite thing to do in his free time is to hang out with his other kids his own age. And the pandemic has interfered with that. Here in Chester County, we're pretty much on lockdown. Most of the schools are closed. And kids are discouraged from getting together for big parties. They can even get in trouble with the police. And so those kids are upset. They're happy if they can be online with their peers. But if they have to go in to see the doctor or they have to sit for a meal with their family, they are not happy. So I'm going to come back to that, but let's now look more closely at what Jean Twenge found in her nationwide survey. As I mentioned, overall, just 20% of American teens nationwide reported symptoms of depression. As I said, that was lower than the percentage 2 years previously. But one of the questions Jean Twenge asked, because she really knows the right questions to ask, she asked, are you eating dinner with your parents more often or less often as a result of the pandemic? Just over half of the teens in the survey said that they're now eating dinner with their parents more often. Have you become closer to your family during the pandemic, or have you not become closer? That one question alone tells you how this kid's doing. Kids who say, yeah, since the pandemic began, I've been having more meals with my parents. We've become closer as a family since the pandemic. Only 15% of those kids report being depressed, report symptoms of depression. But among kids who said, no, we're not any closer as a result of the pandemic, I go in my bedroom, I close the door, and I'm on social media or I'm playing video games. 28% of those kids are depressed. That one question, have you become closer to your family as a result of the pandemic, predicts the split. As I said, some kids are doing better, some kids are not. Who's doing better? Kids who have become closer to their parents. And this didn't just happen. These are parents in my firsthand experience who are saying, hey, I'm not going to let you go in your bedroom and close the door and spend 3 hours looking at a screen. That's not happening. we're going to spend more time together. So that's one part. That's one key finding from Jean Twenge's study. Another key finding from Jean Twenge's study has to do with sleep. So 2 years previous to this study, only 55% of American teens reported getting 7 or more hours of sleep a night. And teens need at least 7 hours of sleep a night. So nearly half of teens are significantly sleep deprived as of 2018. But when they conducted this Jean Twenge survey 2020 during the pandemic lockdown, 84% of teens are reporting getting 7 or more hours of sleep a night. Schools closed. They don't have to wake up early to go to school. They can roll out of bed at 8 o'clock and get online for Zoom. They're getting more sleep. Again, the overall rate of depression has dropped. And one reason Jean Twenge believes is that teens are getting more sleep. So Jean Twenge's own assessment of her research boils down to 2 things. Use the pandemic to build family ties. Eat supper as a family. You know, in my country, in my state, we don't have after-school sports right now because of the pandemic. Used to be kids were overscheduled, going from one thing to another. All that's been canceled. Take advantage of that to bring the family closer together. Supper as a family. I'll show you some data in just a moment from Frank Elgar about how powerful that is. And get more sleep. It's that simple. It may not be easy, depending on your family, but it is that simple. And I believe that these lessons are lessons that will endure. Even after the pandemic is just a bad memory, we need to fight for supper together as a family. We need to make sure our kids are getting. Again, what Jean Twenge found was that the key ingredients for a happier child or teenager is, number 1, eat supper as a family. Number 2, get more sleep. And did we get to this slide about the mobile phone?
Yes.
Okay, so we talked about
No.
no phone in the bedroom.
From there on.
Okay, so no phones in the bedroom, no devices in the bedroom, no video game consoles in the bedroom. That is the official recommendation of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and it makes good sense. You want to eat supper with your kids. No devices allowed at the dinner table. Frank Elgar and his colleagues interviewed more than 10,000 adolescents coast to coast and asked them, in the last 7 days, how many evening meals have you had at home with a parent? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. And for each of these 10,000 some adolescents, they quantified internalizing problems like anxiety and depression, externalizing problems like hitting the wall in anger, positive well-being, pro-social behavior, and life satisfaction. And they found a huge effect. The more dinners you have at home with, the more dinners this kid has at home with at least one parent, the better that kid does. Not just comparing 0 to 7, but at almost every step along the way. Compare 5 evening meals at home with at least one parent to 6 evening meals at home with at least one parent. Just going from 5 to 6 on this graph, you see a significant decrease in internalizing problems, a significant decrease in externalizing problems, a significant increase in positive well-being, pro-social behavior, and life satisfaction. And that's kind of a benefit of the pandemic. You know, it used to be that after school, kids would go off, at least in my neighborhood, kids would go off and play soccer or do sports, do activities. That's all been canceled as a result of the pandemic. that actually makes it easier to have family meals together. You no longer have those conflicts. Take that opportunity. I'm hearing from families that come into the office where the parents are saying, well, you know, it's the pandemic, so I just let him eat in his bedroom with the door closed so he can be online with his friends. Bad idea. Bad idea. Don't ever do that. No eating in the bedroom with the door closed. Eat as a family together. My wife and I went to buy a new car, and when the salesman found out we have a 14-year-old daughter, he was very excited and wanted us to sell us the rear seat entertainment system. And he gave us this flyer. Let's take a look at this flyer. The two kids are wearing headsets looking at a screen. Mom is looking back at her kids, smiling as if to say, hey, this is great, great. We can drive for 5 hours and I never have to talk to my kids at all. What are we thinking? Time is precious. Time in the car is special. It's private. When your kid is in the car, they should be listening to you, and you should be listening to them. No earbuds, no headsets in the car. Researchers at UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, looked at a large number of American families, literally followed them around, and found that what is now typical for middle income and affluent families in the United States. Let's say you have a family of 4, a mother, father, son, and daughter, and they come home. They found that within minutes, each family member is in their own bedroom, looking at their own screen. Don't do that. You cannot have a family if the family is not physically together. Less time in the bedroom, more time together. And I want you to know that I practice what I preach. That's my own family. My wife and I invited her parents to move in with us 13 years ago, and they're still here. My parents are both dead. But that's my father-in-law sitting with his back to the fireplace, his wife, my mother-in-law, in the chair, my wife on the couch, and my daughter sitting, and there's our big TV at the top right-hand corner. One TV. You watch TV together as a family. Kids should never have their own TV in the bedroom. That's a terrible idea. We have a big backyard, so we plant our own vegetables and play board games. There's our group selfie. The 3 takeaways then from Jean Twengey's research and Frank Elgar's research and other scholars whom I cite. Prioritize the family over same-age peers. Cancel the play date. Make a family date instead. Limit social media and video games. We don't have time this evening to go into that in great detail, but if you're interested in the research, I cite that research in my books. Ensure a good night's uninterrupted sleep. No screens in the bedroom, no phones in the bedroom. Again, you'll find more on these topics in my books, Boys Adrift, Girls on the Edge, Why Gender Matters, The Collapse of Parenting, which, as I mentioned, is available in Spanish translation. My books in English are all available as audiobooks. If you like to listen to books and you don't mind English, you can listen to the books. I also like to put in a plug for some of my other presentations. Presentation on Boys Adrift, the 5 factors driving the growing epidemic of unmotivated boys and underachieving young men. Why Gender Matters, what parents need to know about hardwired differences between girls and boys. And Girls on the Edge, why so many girls are now anxious and or depressed. If you found this message useful, I hope you all let me know of anyone else who might be interested. Again, the handout is online. The numbers and such that I presented at the beginning and the recommendations that I make, just 4 pages. It's my name, leonardsax.com/Monterey.ph. PDF. It is case sensitive. It is all lowercase. It's online now. You must include the www and the .pdf. I'm going to need to sign off because I need to go read a bedtime story to my daughter, although she's 14. She still likes me to read to her, and I love to do it. We're reading Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to sign off, but if you have a question that I didn't answer tonight, please send me an email, and I will do my best to get back to you. Give me a couple days, and I will do my best to respond. Felipe, Guillermo, are you okay if I sign off?
Leonard, thank you very much. Sorry for the technological challenge, the issue that we came up with. We really want you to be a part of Núcleo Familiar, and we hope to have you soon back with us. We'll arrange that with you. Thank you very much. Enjoy your daughter, and we continue with the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.